Hello and welcome back to another video. I'm Zelp, and today we are going to test and see how heat and corrosive, the armor stripping, kind of works between each other. And then we are also going to explore, or I'm going to share with you some really cool ideas of stripping armor. So in case you guys do not know, armor stripping is still a thing in the game. It's just that it's very hard to pull off with weapons, especially with the corrosive that has a cap on 80% armor reduction. So you cannot go higher than 80%, but I believe there are still ways they can do, and we're going to explore more in other videos. But today the focus is more on heat, between heat and corrosive. Now the whole idea of this video came from this guy, which I cannot pronounce his name. I actually featured or talked about him before in a past video because he's the one that found out that one of my spreadsheet, the column, has a mistake in one of the calculations. So this guy, if you're watching right now, I just want to let you know that you're eligible for a giveaway. You just need to PM me on Discord, and yeah, it's yours. So anyways, in his comment he stated that he thinks that there's a hard cap of 80% for all the status. But then shortly after, someone actually replied to him, which is Silver Sickle, and he is also been featured in one of my videos as well. I guess they're both really bright, really smart people, and he said that he don't think there is a hard cap, and he showed him some numbers that he came up with. So now the problem is, I don't know how he get his numbers, even though he did explain, but I'm not too sure if it's done correctly. I'm also not the kind of person who just take things in. I like to try it myself. I like to see certain things being done so that I can think like, oh, could the other factor be involved, and things like that. So I wanted to arrange another way to investigate this, and I think I found a easier way. So therefore, the first part of the video, I'm gonna show you how heat armor reduction is going to stack with corrosive. Now first of all, I need to show you the weapons that I'll be using. So I have a Cyanics, which is mostly impact, but he does do some gas damage, but the gas damage is separate, so you can actually focus on the impact damage instead, so you don't get affected by the gas damage. And over here I just basically tried to bump up its damage a little bit more so that it'll be more obvious, or if there's any little changes we can kind of identify it. And then after that, over here we have the Scorch, and what this pretty much is supposed to do, it itself has corrosive damage, only corrosive. So this is actually one of the weapons that you can rock viral corrosive as well if you want to. But the point here is that I only want to have corrosive and heat, so which is why I have these things on, and then try to max out its status chance as high as possible so that we can really quickly reach a 10 stack of corrosive. Okay, now the next thing that you need to know is that I'm using Factoring Crush, and what it says here is that it's going to reduce the armor of the enemy by 50%, but if you have higher power strength, it will actually remove even more. So in this case, because I have slightly above 200% power strength, I can actually remove 80% of the armor. Now I did a video like 3 years ago, and I showcased the proof on how I know it's 80%. You know what, I think I'll just play back that video just a little bit at the part where we talked about it, just to refresh your memory in case you guys did not see that. This enemy is a level 50 corrupted heavy gunner, and it should have 2232.3 armor. Since the damage from polarized after crush is 445, which is the remaining armor, we could now calculate that the remaining armor is about 20% out of the total armor, and that means the armor reduction cap by Factoring Crush is 80%. Once again, math saved the day. Okay, if you'd like to know more and how max other ability kind of work, feel free to check out that video. I put the link down in the description. So now that we know that it's going to remove 80% of the heavy gunner's armor, we can hit it when it doesn't have 80% of its armor, and then we can try to proc both heat and then corrosive on him, and then hit it again and see if we get the same value as 80% armor reduced, or is it slightly more. If it's more, that means they actually reduce even more than just 80% armor. So the way how things kind of could stack in Warframe is either it's additive or it's multiplied. So if it's 80% and then you remove another 50%, in a weird way it can be like you remove 130%, or after you remove 80% there's 20% left, and then you remove 50% out of that 20%, so you have 10% left. So technically, from what I feel, if it's not a hard cap, then the enemy might have a remaining of 10% armor. So let me summarize what we're going to do again. We are going to use Crush to remove 80% of the enemy's armor. We're going to hit it to see how much damage that does when the enemy does not have 80% of the armor. And then after that, we're going to proc a max stack Corrosive on the enemy, and also maxed out heat, or I mean just heat. And then we are going to hit it, and we're going to see if it does the same damage as with only Crush, or if it doesn't. If it doesn't, and if it does even more damage, then we know that it actually goes above 80%. And if it's the same, then we kind of know that there might be a sort of like a cap on 80%. Now this is only one part of the test. I actually come up with two. So the other one is even quicker, and we're going to see if they kind of tally and if it makes sense. So let's try and do this one first. So all I have to do right now is get some energy. Ooh. Let me re-summon. And we don't need the charger anymore. Okay. So first thing is, let me take my gun out just in case. First thing is, let's take a look at how much damage it does to the body. If I were to hit it, let's do the thighs. If we hit it when it has this max out armor. Oh, wrong button. Okay, ready? 14 damage. Let's do that again just to verify. Yep, 14 damage. One more. 14 damage and 3 gas damage basically. Okay, now we are going to remove 80% of his armor. Ready, go. Look for the dice. 61. Oh, I think it went back down. So we only have a short window of it losing 80% of his armor, because factoring Crush, the augment actually has a 7-second window, and depending on your duration it could be a little bit longer, it could be a little bit shorter. I do have Transient Fortitude, which could have reduced it. Okay, so let's do that again. I remember the value was like 61. Oh boy. Yep, 61. Oh yeah, 61 again. Okay, now it went back down. So at 80% armor reduced, my damage becomes 61. Alright, now we're gonna take out this weapon, and we're gonna do heat and also max stack Corrosive. I do need to be careful. I don't want to hit him too soon, because apparently heat proc, it takes like 2 seconds to reach 50% armor reduction. So let's start. Okay, we have our 10 stack of Corrosive already. Now I'm gonna switch over, aim for the dice. I can't see too many numbers. Oh man, let's do that again. Okay, there you go, 10 stacks. Switch over. I see 107. 107. Okay, let's do that again. We need to verify our answer. 2 seconds, got it. Yep, 107. Oh, that one was a miss. So there you go. I did 107 instead of 61, which means that there is a slight damage increase included. Now just to double check with the 80% corrosive cap, over here I have corrosive modded on my Scorch. And we're gonna try and see how much damage it will do on a heavy gunner. So by right, according to the test just now, it should be 61, I believe. Yep, 61. 61. Okay, the next test to prove that it's more than 80% is actually an interesting way. And I'm also going to explain a little bit about how you can creatively remove an enemy's armor with mag, and I've showcased this in the old video, the one that I linked down in the description as well. So I've been playing mag for a really long time. She used to be sort of like the main character that I use. If you have Factoring Crush, there is a time where the 50, or in this case because of my power strength, 80% armor reduction become nullified, which is, you know, in this case it says here 7 seconds, right? So after 7 seconds technically, or slightly less than 7 seconds because my duration is slightly less than 100%, it's going to end. However, your Polarize also removes enemies armor. So if you read it, it says enemy, it's an energy pulse that depletes enemy shield and armor. Now that armor reduced or removed, if you can do it before the duration ends and completely strip the enemy's armor, it's gonna stay that way for the entire game. So it's gonna be permanently removed. So what I'm trying to say here is, let me just showcase it real quick, and then we can continue with the actual testing. So we get a fresh heavy gunner, and what I need to do is, if I were to use, let's say, okay, so this 80% remove, this 80% out of that 80%, and there. Okay, so what happened here is that I remove 80% of the armor. By using it twice, I remove another 80% out of the remaining 20%, and then I use my Polarize to remove whatever's left. Okay, so the next way I'm gonna prove that is more than 80% is by doing this. I'm gonna shoot it, okay, with my staff, and right now, yes, heat and corrosive. Now corrosive is at max stack, right? If I were to use Polarize, I'm gonna see how many times it takes. So I did 2 Polarize, and it completely strips the armor. Also FYI, if you were to be able to reduce its armor that much and use Polarize, you can also permanently remove all its armor. So that is also another really interesting way to use Max Polarize. Something tells me mag is going to be like one of the top tier Warframe really soon, considering with the shield gating and everything, and damage reduction due to shields. Mag is just so good now. Okay, next thing I want to do is I want to remove heat. Okay, so now there is no heat, it's only corrosive. I'm gonna do the exact same thing and see how many times it takes. Oops, let me clear the enemies first. And you're gonna see how many times it takes for me to do Polarize in order to completely remove. So before it was twice, right? So this time with a max stack corrosive, I need to do 1, 2, 3. So obviously I need to do more stripping. So in other words, I need to do more stripping when it's only corrosive than I need to do when there's corrosive and heat. So in that sense, basically it is definitely more than 80%. Now how much more? Again, I feel like there's only 2 ways it could be stacking, and I believe it's the second way. So the 50% armor reduction is done either after or before the corrosive armor reduction. So it's 80% first, and then 50% out of that 20%, which means it's a total of 90% armor reduction. Or it can happen the other way around, so 50% first from heat proc, and then there is another 50% left, and 80% out of 50% is 40%. So again, it's still 90% armor reduction. Okay, that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to learn more about mag, click on the link in the description. If you have any other ways that you feel like it's better in testing this, let me know down in the comments as well. If you feel like you did something wrong, let me know down in the comments as well. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys learned something today. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.